Hello, Laura Donnelly here from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance, and today I have another broadcast of The Healing Path. The Healing Path is a series of conversations with friends and colleagues that I know either in person or from on the internet, which is really awesome that we can meet people all over the world and work with people all over the world from our own houses. So these people all work in various areas of the healing field. And the main premise of the show and the thing that we have share in common is this belief that all healing starts with an internal choice and decision for self-healing. And then whatever modality you use is amplified by that intention and by that focus in your system. And our bodies are designed to heal themselves from all kinds of crazy things. That's how we survive. So today, my guest is Elizabeth Kipp, and she is going to talk to us about holistic healing and some of the limits of traditional Western medicine that she ran into on her healing path. I'll bring Elizabeth onto the broadcast, and we'll just chat. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hi, Laura. Nice to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to have a conversation with you and with your listeners. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you could come and share, because I know that you struggled with chronic pain, which is for years before you were able to work on, discover methods that gave you relief. And this is a really important thing. I think, get rid of pain. I mean, really, pain is yucky.
Well, we'll begin. Why don't we begin with a definition? Well, I'll say who I am first, and then we'll do a definition of chronic pain. Elizabeth Kipp. I'm a chronic pain management specialist, and I'm a yoga-informed and trauma-trained addiction recovery coach and ancestral clearing practitioner. I also, as the yoga-informed part, I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. It's all part of all the things under a chronic pain specialist support clearing chronic pain. So that's who I am. And chronic pain is misunderstood by most people. They don't understand what the definition is. Chronic pain, yeah. So chronic pain is any pain, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, doesn't matter. The brain can't tell the difference between one kind of pain and another. It all sends the same signal. It hurts. So chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more.
Wow.
So I maintain anyone who's had a grief experience, even if they've recovered from it, they're in recovery from chronic pain, right? Because that lasts for, oftentimes a grief experience lasts for 3 months or more.
Yeah. It can last for years, actually.
If we can't clear it out of the system, absolutely, yeah. So, so that's kind of who I am and what chronic pain is. I'll give you a few statistics, then I'm going to take you right into back up what you said about the healing path. The National Institutes of Health estimates a full 25% of all North Americans suffer from chronic pain, and that's across all socioeconomic measures, including children, right? So the World Health Organization estimates a fifth of the world suffers from chronic pain. So this is what you might call a silent epidemic. And it's not well understood, and we'll get into that in a minute as to what that's about. But I would like to read this statement that backs up what you introduced with. To heal, you need to be willing to sit with the uncomfortable. It is all part of the miraculous healing power of the body. You are releasing toxic stuff. It's going to feel strange and not exactly blissful. You can do this sitting with a therapist. You can sit with your higher power. You can sit with yourself. Remember, you are not your body. Your body's in you. So feel and release. Do not judge what you are feeling. Just feel it. You're above whatever this uncomfortable thing is in the most magnificent way. It has extraordinary power and intelligence to use and transform it, so long as we release the need to control it. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. My wise friend Guru Prem Singh Khalsa said, pain is the currency of transformation. Be careful how you spend it.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. I have another friend, and she sometimes has flashbacks, which is another version of chronic pain in your definition, right? It's a recurring thing. It happens over and over. And she said that they changed dramatically when she started looking at them as information and energy.
That's right.
A lot of times when I work with somebody, I say, have you talked to your pain? You know, if your body hurts as a dancer, it's telling you something is out of balance. You're doing something too much or not enough or in the wrong way. And the pain is a signal. It's not its own thing. It's not its own thing, you know.
It's not out to get us. It's not out to get us, right?
No, it's trying to communicate. Oh, my friend. Yeah, my friend Borat is here. It's so good to see you. And, well, or see your name, as the case may be. But this is really, that's a beautiful quote. And where did that come from?
Oh, pain is the currency of transformation. The whole thing, I wrote it. I wrote that. I wrote that. So it's I wrote a book, actually, The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power, which is kind of the patient manual to this book by the doctor that helped me clear my chronic pain, Dr. Peter Prescott. The book is Conquer Chronic Pain, an Innovative Mind-Body Approach by Dr. Peter Prescott, who has since passed away, but I teach his book, and I teach these as a pair, right? I teach these as a pair. So this is very kind of sciencey, doctory, and I have a science background, so I can interpret it pretty easily. People ask questions, well, what does he mean by that? Right. And then I come in with this, which are the tools that I used. He has some of the ones that he used in his book, which I worked. I helped him write those tools, that part of the book, and I've worked those tools because he taught them to me, and then I have more in here. So there's a way through chronic pain. The problem is, from a Western science point of view, we don't really understand it.
Well, sometimes I think people try to get rid of pain.
Well, that's a problem.
As opposed to understand it.
Yeah, that's getting rid of is the opposite, because we're trying to push away instead of accept that it's here, and so they're moving in the wrong direction when they're trying to push it away. Yeah, that's an error in the system when they try and do that. And I tried to do that for a long time until I finally was like, you know what, this is not working. let's try a different strategy, like 180% switch that direction, right? So
that's the thing too about the body. It wants to get your attention.
Yes.
And if you ignore it, it goes to another channel.
Well, it'll bigger.
If you're having headaches and you treat the headache, then maybe it moves to your back, or maybe it just will move around trying to say, wait, is something important here?
Well, I had, that's an interesting look at that. It's not necessarily, I mean, I've seen chronic pain do that. Mine really started emotional, and I didn't realize it, and journaled into physical. I had an accident when I was 14 and I broke the fifth lumbar on my back, and the vertebrae slipped forward and pulled on the leg nerves. And so it was pretty major, but I got up and walked away from that accident. So having been grown up with no pain, no gain, I just learned at a really early age how to push through all of it. And so that began a pattern in my nervous system. If it hurts, it doesn't matter. Keep going, which is not what we're talking about here, right?
No,
So my challenge in clearing my chronic pain, I was able, Dr. Peter helped me actually clear it out of my system. But my challenge in my recovery, which is we're over 7.5 years now. I'm over 7.5 years cleared from this. My challenge is, where's the line? Because I'll say, I'm a yoga teacher, so I'll do my yoga practice, and we want to kind of test the nervous system and push it just a little bit to make it resilient and build capacity. And so for me, it's like, well, where's the line between building capacity and actual damage? And I can't tell the difference until I'm way over the line, based on my old programming of no pain, no gain. You just push through all of it, right? It's an old habit. Yeah.
It's a really, really important thing. because like I came up to teaching dancing, the same thing, right? No pain, no gain. Well, that doesn't really hurt. Somebody said to you, well, that doesn't really hurt. You're like, okay, this feels bad, but it doesn't hurt. Okay. And you do internalize these messages. And at the same time, when you're building muscle capacity, like you said, part of that building is to break down the tissue and have the tissue rebuild. And same thing like with stretching. There's a good stretch and a bad stretch. And then a lot of this, for me, requires, how do I want to say, like getting in touch with your body a different way. Really learning to listen to your body's messages. And, is this a tweak? Is this bone on bone? Is this just a little muscle strain because I picked up too many bags of potatoes yesterday or something? Or like you said, your back slipped out and your body adjusted to having that bone in the wrong place. And that became normal. And that's another problem with injury.
Well, it was painful, but I just ignored the signal is what happened. And it wasn't until 7 years later that I got with a chiropractor, and he's like, "Oh, you have an old injury." I'm like, "Oh, I know what that was." And he helped me for a while, and then I needed surgery, and I had like 3 surgeries to stabilize that, because they were concerned that it would just keep slipping because it was moving forward into the pelvis. It's like 80% slipped into the pelvis now, and it's pulling the leg nerves with it because of its location. So it's stable now, but the surgery, and I'll get into this. This is why I wanted to talk to you and present this part of my argument. I talk about it in the book a little bit, but I just had more pain. And then they started me on opiates and benzodiazepines, which is for anti-anxiety, and to help me cope, because that was their only solution. And I'll get into it a little bit. They made an error because until I met Dr. Peter, which was many years later, 32 years later, they made an error because the information they had, the Western doctors that I worked with, and I worked with lots of them all over the place, in Canada, here, around the world. They assumed I wouldn't get better. They said, they said, this is the best we've got. The opiates and benzos, this will give you the best quality of life that we can give you. You're not going to get better. And I was like, I'm a scientist, and I've learned that the experts know their area. I know my area, and I kind of know within my area what I know and what I don't know. So that's kind of a thing that we learn. But that's an error in the system on the part of these people, because they're not fortune tellers, and they've forgotten their basic science, which is science works on probabilities, not facts. It's probable that. not yes and no. It doesn't work like that. That's not what science is, right? So that's kind of fundamental misunderstanding when they said you will, because they can't say that. That's not honest. That's not actual real science, right?
No, and they don't want to say the real science, which is
Well,
in our history, this is challenging, and we haven't seen someone get better. We don't know how you will get better, but we don't know that you won't get better.
yeah, they didn't say that. So
That's
so,
a scary
yeah.
thing for a doctor to say, I think.
Well, when I was trained as a scientist, I was trained to be honest and be rigorously honest. So anyway, it's just the way that I kind of come to the game. Here's the other thing. Science can only talk about, comment on things that it can observe, measure, and describe.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anything outside of that, they cannot comment on, other than to say, I have no comment. That's how it works, right? So here's the thing. Where do we live? We live in the all it is. It includes the science framework and everywhere else. We live in the all it is, right? Where does healing happen? It happens everywhere, including the scientific framework and beyond it. So just because science hasn't figured out how things work doesn't mean that how to heal XYZ doesn't mean it can't heal. You see that? It's really important to understand. It's a fundamental understanding.
Yeah, I get it. And I love it. I mean, it's where I live, right? My whole self is. There's so much mystery just inside our own individual bodies.
Yeah.
And your body and my body, we might have some similar things. I mean, they might look exactly the same from the outside. We have heads and we have eyes and we have arms and everything like that. But internally, we are like two different ecologies. And the doctor has to be really, what do I want to say? Open to look at how maybe even the same medicine affects you as it might affect me.
Yeah, so the conundrum of chronic pain, you're speaking right to my next point. Conundrum of chronic pain from the Western doctor point of view is a result of the reductionist thinking. So traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine and Native American medicine and lots of other medical models except Western models, Western science, the Western medical model, all look at the mind, body, spirit system as one thing. They're not separate. Can't separate mind, body, and spirit. What happens to one happens to all of them, all of those, right? In the Western science world, it's this reductionist view. And they're like, so the first thing that a Western doctor would look to me, they would look at my x-rays. Oh, you have this thing in your back. And that's their, you got to start somewhere with in a science problem. I get that, right? I get that. Here's the problem with chronic pain. You could have 3 people with my x-rays, 3 different people with x-rays that look just like mine. And you would have 3 different results. One would have pain all the time. The other would have pain only when they're stressed. And the other wouldn't have any symptoms at all. Now, how do you explain that? Right? How do you explain that? You can't explain that from a reductionist point of view because the x-rays look the same. So the thing that's happening right at that point where they're looking is the same. Now, but there's something different, right? So my question when I sit in front of a doctor, and I have Western doctors on my team, right? They're wonderful. I'm not dissing that, but I am saying, what is your perspective? So I'm very careful to know what is the perspective the doctor or healthcare worker that's sitting across from me is using to view my problem. Is it holistic? Is it reductionist? And And what are the limitations in each one of those perspectives? Because it's all limited. There's all limited, right? There's all kinds of limitations. We can talk about this, but we can't talk about that kind of stuff. It's hard to have that conversation, really. Doctors don't have that much time, really. But my job as a chronic pain coach, right? As a person that works in this area and helps other people deal with this stuff. I'm not like a doctor or a therapist, but I sure know the area, right? My job is to shed some light on this stuff and to help people understand what's really happening with chronic pain. The brain is changed by chronic pain. So we need to bring changes that heal. Need to bring modalities that heal those changes, right? And the kinds of changes, and anybody who's a chronic pain person here. Hi, Kathleen. Nice to see you. Anyone here that's knows chronic pain will recognize these symptoms. 1, brain fog. I can't think straight. Oh, I don't remember this, and I forgot that, and my short-term memory is not very good. That's a symptom. Another symptom is increased negativity. We have a slight negative bias anyway. Like when we see something new in our environment, our first tendency is to say no, right? Because it keeps us safe. When we come up against the unknown, we do this hesitation to keep us safe. But in chronic pain, that negativity really ramps up. And so we have this very negative, you did this and you did that, or I did this, and it can turn right into us. So we have a very shadowy, dark existence when chronic pain comes in, and it steals our attention away, is what it does. And so we have to bring modalities in that heal those changes and keeps chronic pain from stealing our attention away. Right. And that's what I work on. Yeah.
Well, I knew we would have, I'm sure we could talk for like 5 hours. I'm sure we could talk for 5 hours. But one of the things that I wanted to touch back on is this idea that there is not a separation. And you said it at the very beginning, that chronic pain can be emotional pain, physical pain, spiritual pain, or mental pain, thinking. I mean, a lot of the work I do has to do with what happens when you think a certain thing. And like for your doctors, when they say to you, well, you're never going to get better. What happens to a person when someone they trust in authority says that? If somebody says to me, I don't know how you're going to get better, but let's start to explore. My whole thing has a different response. My whole thing, right? The whole thing that's connected.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And so a lot of the thing that I work on too is re-attention, changing your attention. Because in this system, if you bring a sense of ease or healing, calmness or peace to any part of it, it trickles through all the rest of it.
Well, then the body can heal. When we come to that place where we're accepting the moment and we find some ease, or we find, let me put it this way, in chronic pain, ease is a few steps down the road. But the idea is to accept that this is what I'm feeling in this moment. And within that, you can find some ease, and then healing can start taking place, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that pressure against something. Well, I often talk about it like dancing. When you want to jump, you push down on the floor, and the floor pushes back. And so that's because you wanted to jump, so you wanted to get higher. So the harder you push down, the harder the floor pushes back, and the higher you jump. But if you want rid of an idea and you push against it, then it's going to push back and get stronger. So that pain, when you block it, is really, really adds to it. And it's hard not to tense up against it. It really is hard. I tell this story on myself all the time. I had a bad headache one time, and I was whining. Like you said, the negativity, right? I feel so bad. It hurt. My head hurts so bad. And, and my husband passes through the room and he says, don't you have something you can do about that? And I'm like, I'm laughing. I said, okay, I have to do my own medicine, right? And this is a lot what you're talking about is you have to make that choice, right? That you're going to look at this differently from a different point of view.
Mhm.
And then what I did is between the throbs, I discovered there was space between the throbs where I didn't have a headache.
Mm.
It wasn't very big, but when I stopped repeating the litany of how bad my head hurt, I could discover something else in there. And I think that looking at our I was thinking too that do you coach people who have chronic pain? And as Kathleen has just said, it's so easy to get negative when you're in pain, and it
Yeah.
really is.
Mhm.
It takes so much energy just to keep going through the pain, which is what we're taught to do.
Well, there's mostly we're taught that's actually not what we're taught. I
Really?
was taught, and not what the people around me were taught. They were taught that as soon as we got a bump and we did that, the adults rushed right over to try and like stop the pain. So like, put a Band-Aid on it, give you a pill, give you a shot, whatever it was to stop the pain. So I learned pain is bad.
Oh, interesting.
Deal with pain at all costs, whatever you have to do to cover it up. There was no accept it. There was none of that other than, so that's one message when somebody gets physically injured. If they admit that they're physically injured, I had to get knocked down and out in order for that to happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, I
But
broke my toe, but it doesn't hurt that
you have
bad.
a flash or a break, or you've got a cut that they can see. They rush over, right, and they make this big thing about it. So, and I'm not saying we shouldn't attend to our children and their wounds. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what kind of energy are you putting into it? Are you making them? Are you so scared that you're making them scared of their experience? Are they learning that it's a bad thing to be? It's something to be afraid of, and that their body is their enemy, rather than the miraculous, and then attending to the miraculous power within the body to heal when there's an accident. You see what I'm saying? It's like
Point of
what
view.
perspective? Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important, the point of view. And yeah, um,
Also, I use gratitude, by the way. One of the things, I mean, I've got kind of a list of things that I do to help people have a different pain experience, but one of them is, what's the blessing in this moment? What's the and listen, when I was in chronic pain, I have kind of a thing around gratitude. I kind of came in with that. However, there were moments when if somebody said, "What's the blessing in this moment?" I would have said, "Get the hell out of here."
I got you.
What
Not
are you
today. I don't
about?
feel like it today.
I was like, get away from me with that, So I understand, because we take pain personally. I wrote a blog about the 9 P's of dealing with chronic pain, and like one of them is we take it personally. We think it's progressive. We think it's permanent. I mean, it's just all kind of P words around what we do with our chronic pain. We refer to the past. It's a and we think it's persistent. So lots of P words, and notice all those words revolve around the judgment and meaning I'm making about the pain. I'm not just identifying it as a sensation, as they just said earlier, as information coming into the system. That's not the perspective I'm coming in from. I'm coming in from judgment. It's bad. And these are all the P words that describe how bad it is. But it's what we do, right?
Well, it is. It is. And it's so important. Okay, there's several. My brain is just like firing at 90 miles an hour. It's really important to like I was a teacher teaching dance, and so I tried not to do the abusive things that people had done to me in my teaching.
Mhm.
And so like I had a teacher and she's like, you can't put any padding on your toes when you dance on point. Well, I would get blisters instantly, and then I couldn't dance because that just. So like I said to my kids, figure out what works and put that in your shoes, whatever works, so that you can dance. Because if you're hurt, you can't dance. So there's that. And then what is there? There's discomfort, which is, I think, what we were talking about earlier about with yoga. Where is that line? What is the discomfort of pushing the edge and building without going over the edge and damaging?
Mhm.
And so
not enough, we atrophy. Too much, we injure. There's injury, right? So we have to find that happy balance. And I'll just add here to Kathleen's point. It's really important. It's why the chronic pain work has to be done. Anybody who's a chronic pain patient who's in recovery from it has to use the tools every day. Negativity is like, what is that? Sticky in the brain. It's like Velcro. It's sticky in the brain. Positive thoughts. This is why positive affirmations really don't work. They're like Teflon in the brain. They just slide right off, right? So negative thought, negativity, Velcro, positivity, Teflon. Now, I heard that, because that's neuroscience thing, and I'm like, what's the evolutionary edge on that one? Because that's got to be wired into the system somehow, right? That's kind of where I go. And I was like, oh, because that helps us keep safe in the world, right? If we remember the negative stuff, then we know not to go there next time. So when we're working in chronic pain, and we're trying to change the system to put a more neutral spin on our experience, we're actually working against our basic biology, which wants to accentuate the negative. So it's why we have to do the work every day. Meditation's a huge part of it. Meditation's one of the great places to heal that chaos in the brain that chronic pain creates. So that's one of the reasons I'm a teacher in that, right? That's one of the many things I teach. Yeah, because it helps us. But I have to meditate every day. I do a morning practice every morning. I sit down and I do meditation. Yeah. So
it's a practice.
Yeah, that's right.
And healing is a practice. I called it the healing path because you're on it and you're journeying on it and there can be many healing events on the healing path, but there isn't one major event. It's not a once and done, because like you said, our mind is going to slip back to those negative patterns.
It goes into its old programming, the original conditioning, those first 7 years that lays down some conditioning that's pretty hard, but it's pretty set in the system. So we have to work. We have to work on a consistent basis to rewire that. It's possible because I've done it. I'm still doing it. I'm still working on it, right? Yeah.
And isn't it fun? I mean, for me, this is part of the, people sometimes say to me, well, I'm bored. And I'm like, do you have a body? They go, well, yeah. I said, how can you be bored? Doesn't your body change every day? Isn't something happening in your body right now?
Well, boredom is actually a gateway.
Oh, cool. How?
Yeah. Yeah. I get this a lot. I get this. Oh, I've been breathing and I'm bored with breathing. Okay. So what is boredom? Let's take a look at that, at what it is. It's a place that we're not comfortable with. I'm bored. This is a bad place to be. I need excitement. So that's an addiction all by itself to impact. We're looking for impact. So this is why I work with addiction, because chronic pain has its own addictive stuff. We're not getting a dopamine hit with chronic pain. It's not like that, but we're getting the same signal. That negativity sets off an addictive pattern in the brain. So we need to, this is why I bring this stuff in. And so we're having to be very aware of what patterns are running and how we're approaching it and what meaning we're making out of these things.
Yeah, it's true. The other thing I was going to say is like it seems to me like if you were working with somebody, you would be able to help them to ask the right questions to their doctor when they went to their doctor. Yeah. To advocate for a more holistic idea or incorporation. And my mom, a long time ago, she had cancer in the 80s. And it was a time when you just believed everything the doctor said, you know. And I went with her and she was sick, right? She couldn't do this for herself.
I understand.
This is part of the thing with somebody in chronic pain too. I believe they need help and an advocate, somebody to listen to the doctor, maybe make notes. Now you could record it on your little voice message if the doctor would agree to that. But when you're in pain, you can't even remember all the steps that they say might be good for you.
You don't have access to your executive function if you're in the back part of the brain in fear, right? If your fight, flight, fawn or fawn or freeze is going off, that's in the amygdala. You don't even have access to executive functioning to think about. It's too difficult. Yeah, I agree. I haven't actually done that, gone with a chronic pain patient and to a doctor's appointment, but I have talked to them prior to an appointment and helped them. These are the questions that I'd ask based on your condition. Yes. And I've been in front of doctors before, and again, Dr. Peter was amazing, and there are amazing doctors out there. Another one who's quite fabulous with chronic pain is Dr. Joe Dispenza, and you can look him up on YouTube. He's amazing. He did a lot of rebuilding. He did a very similar rebuilding to what I did, what Peter took me through. Very similar. So there's doctors out there. It's just that chronic pain isn't really taught as a thing, and hopefully they'll start to change that in medical school. But at the moment, it's not really taught. And I think the medical world and big pharma are really scrambling for drugs that's something that's not an opiate that will help pain patients, especially the chronic. And if you look now, I haven't found it. It's not like I can see every piece of research that's out there, but I have looked, and I haven't actually seen any study that says that opiates help heal chronic pain. I haven't seen that.
Well, also what I have talked to people and one of the things they say is that the opiate doesn't even really address the pain. It makes you just not care. That's
right. Well, there's a whole bunch of things that it does, right? You're right. It does that. It also, it dehydrates us.
Oh, that's terrible.
So that the body's not getting the water that it needs, right? It paralyzes the gut so that when we eat food, we can't digest it properly. And we can't eliminate it. So then we've got sewage back up in the system. I know I did this for years.
Causes more pain, right?
Of course, yes. So a ripping.
Then they increase pain medicine because you have more pain.
A rip-roaring case of irritable bowel syndrome. And then the other thing is it depresses the respiratory system. So you're not able to oxygenate the cells properly, and you're not able to clear the toxins that build up. 70% of the toxins in our system are exhaled through the breath. And when you can't breathe properly, they're sitting in the base of the lung, just sitting there polluting the system.
Right.
So tell me, please, how any of that is helpful when a body's trying to heal.
Right.
I don't see it.
No.
I can understand using an opiate under this, because I've had a kidney stone. I had a 4 millimeter kidney stone, and I was really glad to get a shot of Dilaudid. Let me tell you, I was really happy to have that for that moment, right? Until we were able to deal with the kidney stone. It was just a moment while that thing was trying to move through my system that was just epically, insanely painful. But when you're that stressed out, that the body's super stressed, that's what opiates are for.
Right. Intense pain from an
That's right.
isolated episode.
That's right. Yeah.
Not chronic medication for a chronic situation, which is possibly a chronic cry for help.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just think it's important that we look at we're careful about the perspective that we're looking through. How are we looking at the problem? And so anyway, that's my story. I think it's an important message to get across to people, and I really appreciate that you allowed me the time and the platform to bring it forward. Kathleen made a comment. She had to take them for a short time after recent. Yeah, they do take the edge off, but at the expense of the body's ability to heal. So like I broke my arm 4 years ago. I broke it up here. It busted into 7 pieces here. Blew out the wrist and the hand, lower part of the hand blew out. And they gave me opiates that I was kind of like, do I really need them? They said, if you don't take them now and walk out of this place with them, you can't come back and get a script later. I was like, okay. So it was kind of like a little bit of a threat there, but I went ahead and took the script and filled it, but I never used it. I just went into meditation, and I'm not saying like that's what everybody should do. I'm just saying I was able to deal with that. It was exhausting.
Yes, because of that. Because to do it with meditation, this is this coming back and coming back.
Yeah, that's right.
Coming back.
Yeah.
And you're right. Everybody has to make
their own decision. Yep. Where's the line? And I had that bottle in my bathroom in case I needed that help. So I get it. I just with the history that I had, I was just like, yeah, you wanna go back and into the dragon's den again, girl? You want to really try that? I'm like, I'm gonna try not to do that this time.
And by this time, you had healed from a number of things, and you knew how your body was working.
I did.
And for myself, the thing I know about my system is I need an anti-inflammatory. When something is off, I need to reduce the inflammation so everything can move. The blood can move through the muscles. The joints can just be, I don't push them, no pushing, but just let them move gently. That works for me. It's not going to work for everybody, but I know that works for me. And so again, this is learning about our own system. Listening to our own system, working with our own system in a way that promotes it to healing. And my uncle won't take opiates because they gave him hallucinations. And he said he would rather have the pain than the hallucination.
Yeah. That's what happens to me when I get codeine. I start, it's kind of all over. So I not only, when I was taking opiates, I was like, I can take this one and this one and this one, but don't give me anything else because all of those do this, and this to me. It was like that, it was like that. And I also I refused to take any opiate that made me high. I was like, yeah, I'm not going there, but I still got addicted. I still got in that trap. And the other thing that I'll say about opiates that I didn't mention, I gave you the list, but I'm going to give you one more. When you take them more than, say, what Kathleen is taking, which is for a few days, for a short time, when you take them more than that, you can develop something called hyperalgesia, which is the pain medicine itself will cause pain. And that was part of my problem. Yeah, that was part of my problem was I had a number of problems, a number of things that were feeding into my chronic pain experience. That was one of them. It wasn't the only one. Inflammation was another one. I have a very, very sensitive inflammatory response. So I had to really change my diet. I really changed my diet. And I had to make sure that I'm getting enough fluid. Right. So the recommended amount of water used to be a half an ounce of water per pound of body weight. And then Dr. Philip Gullio, who's was one of my doctors, and did a study with Duke University, and they studied Olympic athletes. And what they did was they doubled the dose to 1 ounce of water per pound of body weight and saw what happened. And this is what happened. The athletes either didn't get injured, or when they did, they healed much faster. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. As somebody interested in healing, that's amazing. So we are like, we're like 60 to 70% water, depending on whose reference you use. So it's important that we stay hydrated on a regular basis. And I tried it myself. I'm like, okay. And I end up having to relieve myself more often during the day, but I feel so much better. It's like, wow, I didn't even know it could be like this. Yeah. Right. So another important piece of making sure that we're really feeding, watering, and resting the body.
I love that. Feeding, watering, and resting.
And then making sure that we're saying the right things to it. Like, we need to talk to it and we need to listen to it, right? What are we saying to ourselves, and how much of the Teflon is around, and how much of the Velcro is around, and how are we dealing with our old conditioning that tells us this is how things are this is how things are. And we need to question those and say, really, that's just an old belief. I don't need to push through. There's a way I can do this. I can take my yoga class, or I can go and walk into my day without having to push my way through. It's okay to breathe and have some ease in life
as you move through. Yep. I think so. And there are links in the description for people who would like to get in touch with Elizabeth. If you have questions or comments, in the Healing Path private group is private. And so you can ask a more private question than like on my profile page, because maybe you didn't want to ask a personal question there. The video will be up, and Elizabeth is around online. I'm sure that, and her book is available. And thank you for coming, Boris and Kathleen, and anybody else who was watching. We appreciate that. And I'll be back on the Healing Path again the next time somebody says, this day works for me, because part of my healing is to listen to my intuition. And narrowing things down in channels doesn't work for me. So this was the day Elizabeth was available, and I was really happy. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Borit and Kathleen, and anyone else who's there.
Right. Take good care, everybody, and we'll see you next time.